Commandment 7, Part 2, Supporting Verses. Whenever we look into this commandment here of adultery, something that we are needing to be looking at is its parallel verses and other Bible verses that can be found about this same topic. So the main one that we are going to be mentioning is found over in Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 18, in which it says, "And you shall not commit adultery." This verse here is the first main supporting verse because it is a parallel or duplicate verse that we can find. This section of commandments over in Exodus can be found over in Deuteronomy here is doubled. However, this isn't the only place that we can find this same topic mentioned. Through a group of scriptures that we can find over in Proverbs chapter 6 verses 24 through 29, and because of the length of these verses, we aren't going to read them right now, but I encourage you to pause them and to read them on your own time. This lengthy reading here is able to list a kind of warning here for us. This talks about how we are supposed to be guarding ourselves. Through these verses here, it lists different examples of how walking on coals without getting burned. The entire purpose of these examples like this is to be able to show us how we shouldn't even be giving in to those ideas. Like if we shouldn't have sweets, why would we go into a candy shop? It just doesn't make sense. All that is going to happen is that we will be tempted and want to eat those sweets. These kind of examples here that it is talking about in these verses, if we were to look at someone and to lust after their beauty or their body, all that does is give thought to the idea of adultery if the opportunity presented itself. All that this adultery is a form of temptation, that it starts from the eyes and the lusts of the flesh, just like in the story that we can see in 2 Samuel chapter 11 with David and Bathsheba. It all started from David seeing and looking at her with lustful look in his eyes, which leads to more sins. All that started just from that one look, which led to the invite to more heinous acts of sin and adultery. All these verses and stories that we have talked about all point to the fact that we should be cautious about the lust of the eyes because of what it invites for us to happen in our hearts. All those things that lead to the actual physical invitation is where we get into this adultery. This seventh commandment that we are looking at here is something that is serious for our spiritual well-being, which we can see through verses like Proverbs chapter 6 verse 32 that talk about those who commit adultery, in which it says, "Whoever commits adultery with a woman lacks understanding. He who does it destroys his own soul." Just by reading this one verse here should be enough to convey how important of a commandment this here is supposed to be and how serious it is supposed to be taken. If we are only looking specifically into the Old Testament scriptures, we are able to find multiple verses that all talk about how serious this adultery is. Verses out there like Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 22, in which it says, "If a man is found lying with a woman married to a husband, then they both shall die. And if the man lay down with a woman and the woman, so you shall put away evil from Israel." And also in other verses like Leviticus chapter 20 verse 10. Just through these two verses here that we have mentioned, they both talk about the kind of punishment that was put into place whenever they found someone that was caught in this act of adultery. From just these two verses that were mentioned, both of them mention this punishment from it was for them to be put to death. This is how serious they were talking about treating this sin of adultery. Specifically from this verse from Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 22 that I already mentioned, it talked about the reasoning behind taking this sin so seriously was to rid or put away evil from Israel. This is not only how we are needing to be whenever it comes to sin in general from our life, but it is also how we are needing to be whenever it comes to adultery. This is something that is bad enough for during these Old Testament times that it gives us not just a normal warning that we need to stay away from these things and to not do them. Instead, it also includes the warning that these things here are evil and we need to be putting ourselves away from it as much as possible. This is why it also talks about why that those who are caught should be put to death. All this just goes to show how seriously this is supposed to be taken.